So I've got this niece. Her name is Kelsey. She is a wild little sassy, precocious thing. All this curly hair on her head. I don't know where she got any of that from. And he was telling me this story about Kelsey and about how when Kelsey was 2 years old, she would go over to the refrigerator in their home when she was hungry, and she would point at the big box that had the food in it and say, "Eat." So John said I would go over to Kelsey and I would pick her up. I would run her over to the table and sit her down in the booster seat so that I could bring her the food that she was asking for. But Kelsey, now far removed from what she thought was the place she needed to be to get the food, she would throw a temper tantrum and cry a river of tears, and she would wiggle her way out of that seat and storm her way back across the kitchen in front of the big box where the food was, and she would point at it and say, "Eat." He would then grab her and put her back in her booster seat at the kitchen table, and she would throw a temper tantrum and cry a river of tears and wiggle her way out of the chair, walk back across the kitchen floor, stand in front of the big box that had the food in it and say, "Eat." He would then pick her up and take her back to the booster seat. She would wiggle her way out, walk herself across, and say, "Eat." He said, "Priscilla, we went through this over and over and over and over again." And he laughed as he told me the story, but he said, "Priscilla, at the time, it wasn't funny." He said, "I had to have so much patience with this girl as I tried to get her to understand that where I was putting her was actually the best place for her to be positioned to receive what she was asking me for. That even though in her mind it didn't seem like the best place for her to be to receive what she was requesting, I knew, because I'm her daddy and I love her, that where I was putting her was the best environment for her to be in, for her to receive the requests that she had in her heart and on her mind." And as John told me this story, I got to tell you, I just laughed as I thought about my little curly-headed niece and her little sassy self. I laughed hysterically, and as I was laughing, the Holy Spirit stopped me in my tracks and said, "Don't laugh too long or too hard, because that would be you, Priscilla." How often is it, Priscilla, that I try to put you in the right place? I try to tell you where to go, what to do, give you that Holy Spirit guidance that Miss Joyce was talking to us about. I try to lead you, and yet you rebel against it or ignore it or refuse to follow the directions that I have for you. Priscilla, more patient than John has to be with little Kelsey, I have got to be with you. I became, right there in the kitchen listening to this story, so not only convicted and challenged, but appreciative of the patience of God towards me. And I began to think about how grateful I am that I cannot wear God out.